Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's live. And I've got a quick question for you. So have you ever walked away from negotiating a new deal with a new client and felt like you've shortchanged yourself? Perhaps that new client absolutely bit your arm off to work with you, and you've walked away thinking, oh, I didn't put the right price in. So you end up feeling undervalued, you've undercharged, and it leaves a bit of a bad taste in your mouth. Or maybe you go into a negotiation, you'll start to tell someone about all the wonderful things you can do for them, and before you know it, you're starting to discount before they've even asked for the price. Well, that's exactly why I brought today's guest on. Welcome, Gena Sharp. Gena is an expert at negotiating. His background is in consultancy. He has negotiated more than £200 million in public and private sector contracts. And he now runs a business where he trains small business owners to negotiate effectively. And not only effectively, and for you to come out feeling like you've got a good agreement there, but also that when you walk into negotiations, both parties feel like they are happy and they've won, and they're then happy to work together. So welcome, Gena.
Hi guys, hello everybody.
Hi. So let's dive into the good stuff. And it's certainly something that I've been guilty of in the past, is of making some mistakes with my negotiations. And you've identified 5 big mistakes that we're making. So let's dive in there. Tell us about the big mistakes.
So certainly the example you just talked about earlier, so where you start the negotiation, you kind of put your proposal together. The customer says, "Yep, that's fine, we'll take it." Now, so that's the first one of the key areas where people just stop negotiating. So they haven't actually negotiated. They haven't given you the opportunity to negotiate. Now, you have to at that point look back and say, was my offer too good? What did I do? Did I pitch it correctly? What was in there that's so amazing that something is not quite right? Because most people don't accept it so quickly. A prime example would be you go to buy a car. You turn up and go, right, I'll take it. So how often does that happen, really? And that's really kind of a yardstick, because first thing you just say, well, hold on, that person's accepted way too quickly. So you've got to understand why that would be. And avoiding negotiation completely is another strategy. So some people don't feel comfortable with negotiating. So it might be that they've accepted your offer. Yeah, we've heard it all. We love it. Right, let's take it. Let's not even negotiate. Let's not identify other opportunities for us to work better together. And that's kind of another thing that people have to get over and be better at, is actually understanding negotiations can be uncomfortable. And stopping at the first hurdle is not the answers, or not avoiding it at all, which has been a lot of cases where people just don't completely avoid the negotiation, because they say, well, take it or leave it, it is what it is, and then you move on to a area where it's not really negotiated. It's kind of a binary yes or no answer, and that's not where you want to be, especially for small to medium businesses when they're negotiating a larger contract with the larger corporates, for example, because they can negotiate with you.
And I think actually you made a really good point there, that by negotiating you could actually find a better solution for that client. So you might have gone in thinking what you're going to propose to them, and actually through that negotiations you work out that your proposal isn't 100% right for them. And actually by negotiating, you could actually negotiate a bigger arrangement or a bigger deal. So it's not negotiation doesn't necessarily mean discounting your prices. It could be bolt-ons, extra packages, or extra training, whatever it might be.
Absolutely.
So going into that thinking, I'm scared of negotiating, I don't want to do it, you can actually be talking yourself out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, think of it this way: if you're too scared to negotiate to the big scary client or the big scary supplier, actually what you're doing is you're stopping yourself from getting a great deal. I mean, they are people. You're negotiating with people, and they might feel in the same way. And when you say, "Oh, that's it," they go, "Oh, whew, great! I don't have to worry about my negotiation, and I've got a great deal." But actually, if you would have digged a little bit further, you might have found yourself working with them collaboratively. There might be other areas that they really could help you out with, and that really drives the kind of the working relationship. Because if they just say yeah, then it's a transactional piece where it's just a transaction. You're just another supplier. There's no collaboration.
Okay, so our first one is stopping at the first hurdle or avoiding negotiation.
Yes.
The second one that we discussed before we jumped on, this is definitely one that I think probably everyone suffers from, and that is with our own inner confidence or our self-confidence. So talk to me a bit about that.
Well, this is an interesting one. So everybody's got the voice in the back of their head. So when you prepare for your negotiation, you've done the research, you sit there and you look at the person and they're looking all mean and horrible, and you kind of go, I can't ask that. They will laugh at me. They will totally laugh at me. They'll just tell me, leave the room, and it's all in your head. Right? If you've done your research, you know exactly what you're asking for. You're confident of backing up a fact of what your proposal is. Just ask. If they say no, you're still in the same position you were previously. So it's the back of your mind. It's that fear of the unknown. You build up this monster in your head that they'll say X, Y, Z, and you're going to be worse off. As long as you're credible in what you're asking for, it's like if you go to negotiate for an example of a car, if you go in and you go in half the price of the asking price, the seller will just go, well, what would you base that on? And if you haven't got anything to back it up with, clearly, it's a failure on your part. But if you can back it up and say, well, look, I've done some research. Similar cars are selling for this price, the similar condition. Here's the evidence, and they have got nothing to go back to challenge your logic there.
Yeah, I think we've kind of crossed into a third one of our mistakes we're making there.
Yes.
So first of all is having this conversation in our head and already deciding what the outcome's going to be, as if we're amazing mind readers, which we're obviously not. And the other one, which you're touching on now, is not kind of doing our research in advance or not identifying.
Yeah, so it's kind of the two questions or two points are linked together. So having the research in advance or not having to do it is a cardinal sin for me. If you don't research your options, you don't know what you don't know. And the one of the other challenges that people face is that to yourself, think of the last time you've negotiated, and listeners, people on the live, and other viewers, how often you've gone to negotiation and you had more than 3 options. So how often has that happened? Think back, and that's very rare. So it's usually something massive or something to do with work, and that's the thing. People don't actually look at alternative options. They don't think, well, I'm going to go negotiate with a larger client. I want to set up a collaborative marketing with them, or whatever it may be, or I want a slightly longer payment term, or I want a shorter payment term because it really helps my cash flow, or whatever it may be. Another example of doing the research. Sorry, just finish off there. One of the other examples is that if you know that the client is a bad payer, for example, you've done the research, you know that they don't pay within 30, 60 days, and cash flow is important to you. You can do that up front when you're negotiating with them. You say, look, great, thank you very much, but certainly, we'll stick to 30 days. And of course, they'll say yes, we'll do that. And then you say, okay, great, can we put that into the contract? So then you are safeguarding your own income based on your research that you've done. It's absolute must before any negotiation.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point as well, a very important point, that negotiations with small businesses, it isn't just the cost. It can be the payment terms. There can be other kind of things that are tied into costs.
You look at price, you look at product itself, quantity of it, types of it. So if you are in consultancy business, it's the amount of hours you can give, or the report or level of report, or the level of detail you can look at. There's a huge amount of things. Collaboration, length of the contract. You could say, well, this is a 1-year contract, but if they want a discount, you could say, well, okay, can we explore the length of the contract? So I want to secure the business for 2 years or 3 years, whatever it may be. Exploring those opportunities and doing that work up, your side to understand actually what impact does that have on your business is great, because you've done the background research. You go to the other party, they come back with some points, and you go, yeah, that works for me. And off you go, really, and that's kind of build agreement on that basis.
Right. One of the other mistakes that we sometimes make is that we might have read a book back in the day, on sales and negotiations, and we've learnt this whole kind of good cop, bad cop, or some kind of set routine, and we rely on those. What do you think about that as a mistake?
So, good cop, bad cop routine is overused a lot of times, so especially in sales, where people go, oh, I'll have to speak to the manager. And he's
Oh,
really,
I hate that.
so they go, I'll have to speak to the manager because, he's really tough. So you really want to work with me. Uh, uh, the way to deal with that is, should we bring the manager in? So should they be, if they are the decision maker of this, they should be negotiating with me. Or the other way to deal with it is to say, okay, but I think my prices or my product is fair, my offering is fair, based on this criteria. Do we agree? And they say, yes, we agree. Then go and speak to your boss, because at that point, they both, you and the other party, agree this is subjective criteria that you both agree on. And that would kind of help you. The other way to deal with that is if it's you that's negotiating and you don't have the good cop, bad cop, you could say, certainly take that away, speak to your line manager. However, also let me think on it as well. I'd like to sleep on it, and I'll confirm it for you tomorrow if it's a good deal for me as well. So actually what you're doing is you're giving yourself that out, because what effectively a good cop, bad cop routine in this case does is that they give them the second bite of the cherry. So you want to kind of stop that, and you say, well, I want to have a rethink on it as well if you're going to change in terms, because the good old adage, and this is by far one of the best advices, is nothing is agreed until everything's agreed. And that's kind of a tried and tested method. The other one people use as well is a collaborator. So they don't actually change their negotiation styles. So they've used that good cop, bad cop routine for the last 20 years, and it seems to work for them. The other one is the collaborator, or the kind of engagement and trying to work with people. And sticking to the tried and tested method is usually the mistake that people make. Actually, what that does is stops you from getting the deal that you want, because not everybody negotiates the same way. Some people are hard-nosed. They think that they can stress you, they can push you, they can do all sorts of things to you and your business. And if you go in with a mindset of collaborator, they will just get all the wins, and you'll be left with all the losses. Now, it's doing the research and sticking to your ground, and matching their style to what they're negotiating with good substance, to say, look, I've done my research, here's what it is, here's how we can work together. It's up to you to make that decision. Take that hard-nosed edge away from it, because if they have a subjective point of view why it should be cheaper, for example, counter that and say, okay, what do you base that assumption on? So the going rate for a consultant in this area is X. I have X amount of years of experience, this and the other, so this is a fair price, plus you get all the additional benefits of whatever the people choose to add. And that will effectively, kind of take them down a peg, where they go, oh, hold on a second, maybe I'm being unreasonable here, and just kind of drive that behavior backwards.
Okay, and the last of our 5 is about thinking that winning is all that counts. So...
Very, very. So there's in the 80s. This is a bugbear of mine. That in the 80s there was a lot of talk about negotiation. Just go in, bang the fist on the table, and it's the guy that walks out with a best deal actually wins. And that's not the best strategy to employ, because effectively when you go in and start banging the table, what is the other side likely to do? To do the same. They're not going to sit there and go, well, actually, yes, yeah. Why don't you take all of the benefits?
Yeah.
So actually, it's not about nobody wants to look like a fool. When you're negotiating, you have to make the other side feel like they are winning, that they are getting a good deal. I'm not advocating you should screw them and make them feel like a good deal. But it's about kind of working the relationship, making sure that everybody wins out of that relationship. Because ultimately, if you construct a deal that actually you get an amazing deal and they get a so-so deal, the likelihood is they might not come back to you, because they thought, well, they've done the analysis after a year. They go, actually, it wasn't a particularly great deal for us. However, if you've done fair negotiation, you have looked at kind of giving them a fair, kind of reasonable deal that they are happy with at the point, and they're happy throughout, the likelihood is they'll come back to you because they know that you negotiated fairly. In most cases.
Sorry, more likely to refer you as well if they've had a good experience, and not that they've. I think that's very different between having a good experience and working with someone that you feel you've done one over. You know, you've got an amazing price. Actually, sometimes how you feel about that person is you undervalue them as well. So by finding that deal that works for you and works for your client, I think brings you more referrals. Both parties are happy, and also you're going to put everything into making sure that deal goes really, really well, and you're going to service properly, knowing that was fair exchange of value.
Absolutely, and it's about building that collaboration. You know, I'm a great believer, and you shouldn't shouldn't give out free sessions to because people don't value free, and it's the same way with the kind of negotiations. You know, if it's free, people go, oh great, you know, so I can turn up, I might not turn up, I might do the work, I might not do the work. However, if there's some, you know, kind of, as people say, skin in the game, if they have to pay for it, all of a sudden it's a different story. There's, well, I've paid for this, you know, so I better do it. So it's a different mentality. You know, especially in sales, for example, when they're kind of, oh, you can try it for free. Oh, great, I'll take the, you know, I'll take it. I fancy it or I don't, and then I might take you up on your offer, I might not. You know, it just kind of leaves that gap of misunderstanding, and doesn't really build collaboration, because all you're doing is you're giving them the access, and they're not really giving you anything in return.
So guilty of that myself in the past. I've did some pro bono work when I started out, and you know what? I won't name any names.
Yes.
But there was one client that I worked on that I got him an 11 times return on investment. So for every £1 he was spending, he got £11 back, and I did it free of charge. And we got to the end of working together, and he said, oh, that was brilliant. It's absolutely the best marketing I've ever done, the best return on investment. So, you know, we're going to continue to work together? No, because he hadn't really valued what I'd done. Crazy. So don't give it away.
Yes, but that's the other thing that you've got to keep in mind, is that when you are helping people, is that actually have clear boundaries of your relationship. So if somebody asks you for help, and genuinely that could be a genuine question to say, how do I do this? You know, can you help me with the X, Y, Z? And you say, great, I can help you. You know, let's do this together. However, you know, moving forward, it might be worth us setting up a weekly call or whatever. You know, these are my rates. You know, so I don't mind helping you this one time. You know, because I appreciate how tough it'd be when you first start out on, let's say, Facebook, you know, on marketing and ads, and, you know, I totally get it. However, you know, once you've seen some return, you know, you want to be able to build that structure into the relationship. So therefore they know the boundaries and you know the boundaries. So there's none of that, you know, 10 calls later or 5 calls later, and they go, you know, so what about working together? And they go, oh, what's that? You know?
You're in that friend zone, aren't you? It's like relationships, you're in that friend zone.
Yes, and that's, you know, that's and in a way for you, that was one of the mistakes that you actually made, is the collaborator. So you were collaborating with them actually without doing the research and setting the boundaries in place for the relationship to take that route. What you could have done is to say, after the first, you start seeing some results, and say, look, I'd like to work further with you. I'd like to develop your account further. However, you know, so I will get my best team on it, whatever the process is, you know, but we need to start formalizing a relationship. You can already see the return on investment. You already see that. Yeah. You spend £1, you're getting X pounds back, you know, so let's start to develop that, because I want you to have a better returns. So then he values your input earlier on, because if he doesn't, then you say, well, I'm sorry, I can't further help you, you know, so because everybody likes to eat, you know. So.
Hey, I'd love to turn around to my mortgage company and say that, you know, I can't pay you this month because I'm doing all this wonderful free work, but somehow I don't think they'll accept that as payment.
Just say thank you very much. Yeah, thank you for giving me the mortgage. Yes.
Cheers. We'll do that as a pro bono. Brilliant. Absolutely. Well, I'm certainly going to bookmark this part of the video and come back, and I think probably actually write down what you just said, because that's going to be super useful. So so our 5 mistakes are, doing a quick recap: not doing your research to identify options and also alternative pricing, struggling with your inner self, so kind of thinking that you are the your brain, you're like mind reading someone and deciding what they're going to say, not having the confidence to negotiate, to stop at the first hurdle or avoiding negotiations, because you could actually be talking yourself down from a bigger and more fruitful relationship and working relationship. Sticking to tried and tested methods in books that you've probably read back from the 1980s, self-help books on bad cop, good cop, and understanding negotiations. And number 5 was thinking that winning is all that counts. So that's brilliant. That certainly helped me today, Gena. My world is Facebook. So I want to know now from a slightly different angle. So you have this consultancy, you help people, you train small businesses. So you're very much in the B2B space. So you train small businesses on negotiations. So how are you using Facebook to grow your business?
So for me, I've recently started using Facebook. So, I'm part of some groups on Facebook that I personally found useful. And I thought, right, so if people are reaching me in a B2B space, so I'd like to do the same to my audience. However, Facebook is very organic. It's a private space that people don't want to be in. They don't want you invading their space. And when you're mindlessly scrolling through, they don't want to see marketing, negotiation free course or whatever it may be. They just turn them right off. So for me, it's about engaging people, giving people advice, kind of doing interviews and people building up interest that way. So people go, oh, actually, I wouldn't mind following this person and kind of get more tips and tricks, and further down the line that when I do have a big negotiation coming up or I want to sharpen up my skills, I can then inquire about the services and how can I do that.
Brilliant. Okay, now what we'll do underneath this interview, because I love to connect people afterwards. So if someone's been really interested in finding out more about what you do and about your training, there's a couple of different ways they can get in contact with you. I understand you offer an hour call, where like a discovery call, where you'll dig deep into the negotiations and where they're struggling. Tell me a bit more about that.
So effectively, it's a diagnostics call really for guys and girls really. So it's pre-call, they'll submit a questionnaire. They tell me what the ins and outs of their challenges are. So then what I don't want to do is waste the hour just discovering things that they could tell me up front. So once they tell me all the details, then we can dive into detail. Well, why are you doing that? What's causing that? What research are you doing? So really give people pointers in terms of where and what they could do. In terms of negotiation, how do they, an example might be that they hate negotiation and they avoid it. As we discussed earlier. So it's just understanding what blocks they have and where to put the most effort for them to get the best deal next time. Negotiations are like, you have to practice negotiation. It's not like you've done the course, you've read the book and done. You kind of go away and that's it. It's a practiced art. You negotiate every day with your kids, with your partner, with your family, with your boss. Kids, by the way, kids are the most amazing negotiators. Because why? Because they don't know. No, they're always looking for that alternative. And that's
7-year-old is awesome at it. He just goes, "Mum, can I have that? Mum, can I have that?"
Exactly. And when you say no, this is definitely no. He picks up another similar thing and goes, "Can I have that instead?" Yeah. So, and that's exactly what negotiation is kind of building that kind of understanding and opportunities to find things. And that's what the call is about, and really giving people the opportunity to kind of shine a light on areas where they're perhaps not as strong as it could be, and kind of improving that to get them the best results, whether it's negotiating with a client or a customer.
Fantastic.
I mean, supplier,
you've got a special offer on that session at the moment, which I think is ridiculously cheap. It's £50 for an hour, which I think possibly be the best £50 anyone spends on their business if it helps you negotiate much bigger deals that add some zeros onto the end of that. So that's fantastic. So people can get hold of you. I'll put a link below underneath the interview at genasharp.com/contact, and they can arrange to have that session with you. How else can people contact you? Can they get in contact with you on Facebook?
Yes, absolutely. As I said, it's a private space, and I don't want to be, kind of contacting the people that are cold. But if they want to contact me and say, look, thanks for the live, and I'm interested to find out more, then we'll go from there. And it's a great tool, and let's all use it. Let's kind of share the knowledge.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise on negotiations. I know
Thank
there's
you.
a lot I need to go away and think about, and I hope that goes for the people that are watching today, and there's been some good value there. So thank you a lot, Gena, and
Thank you, guys.
thanks everyone that watched. Take care.
Bye bye.